you're British or you have absolutely any interest in British history, then you've more than likely heard of the street party, a community event typically organised by the residents for the residents, where either a street is completely closed or all of the members of that street gather at a set location to celebrate, socialise and enjoy activities like music, games and food. So good. I don't think I'm going to hold this for the entire video. Street parties have a really rich history in the UK and started as peace teas following the end of World War I in 1919, when a peace treaty was signed on June 28, 1919. Celebrations then erupted across all of the UK, and this became the first time that street parties had been organised by residents on a mass basis. They were also known as peace parties and were typically organised for children to allow them a special treat and to sit down for a tea after long periods of hardship. And a lot of preparation went into these street parties, and some of them took so long to organise that they didn't actually happen until the following year. Money for a peace party would often be collected from door to door. The street would be decorated with bunting that was easy and cheap to make from newspapers, old bits of cloth, scrap paper. The mothers of the street would be the ones that would prepare the food, fancy dress costumes would be homemade, and games would be organised. Some streets would have their teas on tables that were lined up on the road itself, but others would have them in a local church hall, and the party would be filled with real community spirit, where children would play and any local with a good set of pipes might sing a ditty or two. That was a really British sentence, wasn't it? People would sing, and most importantly, it would involve the entire street. Fast forward to the 7th of May 1945, and a military surrender was signed by Germany, declaring victory in Europe, which was made public the following day, the 8th of May 1945, signalling the end of World War II as far as the British public and the rest of Europe were concerned. VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, meant that our nation was finally safe from German aggression. And even though total victory didn't come till a bit later on with VJ Day, Victory over Japan, Britain experienced a collective euphoria with street parties, bonfires, victory parades and dances. However, it is important to note that amongst the celebrations, the war in the Far East still raged on, and many families would also be mourning the loss of a loved one. Tens of thousands of people flocked to Trafalgar Square, which saw some of the biggest open-air celebrations. Pubs were packed, and the royal family made a total of 8 appearances on the royal balcony, some of which included Prime Minister Winston Churchill. But beyond London, people also took to the streets to celebrate, with over 1 million people celebrating VE Day in the UK and many more across different parts of Europe. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and relief as people came together, often with little advanced planning, to organise a simple, last-minute community get-together where neighbours would share whatever food and drink they could. Union Jack flags were handed out, bunting was draped, posters were quickly cobbled together, and tables, chairs and tablecloths were frantically moved into the street or to a local church hall. And on that table was served whatever the community could spare, as rationing was still very much in place. People served victory cakes, homemade scones, sandwiches and whatever other treats they could manage, including traditional British foods like sausage rolls, meat pies, sandwiches, alongside homemade lemonade, fruit juices, and where possible, beer or other alcoholic drinks. And if at all possible, ice cream, a very rare wartime treat, would also be served, which proved a highlight for many children. People were encouraged to wear a patriotic red, white and blue, and many of the parties lasted until the small hours of the morning. You coming to celebrate? You coming to celebrate? Are you patriotic? But the elation didn't stop there, as night descended and suddenly all of the street lamps beamed to life for the first time in years, with no need for blackouts anymore. As Peter Johnson, who was a child during this time, recalls, in the evening we went to a dinner and dance in the ballroom above the Regal Cinema. All of a sudden, all the streetlights that were still working came on, and to walk home and see the lights on in every house blazing out, it was magic after those long years of war. Some of the shops even had their windows ablaze with light. There was also a bonfire. Life was going to get better from now on. Bonfires did indeed light up the skies, and people felt a mixture of jubilation, exhaustion, and relief. The burden of war had finally been lifted, and people's mood was one of triumph and hope for the future. Following the VE Day celebrations of 1945, there was a resurgence of street parties, with communities hosting joyous gatherings, dances, sing-songs, and they have since become a cherished tradition, celebrating national events and fostering a community. And here's a quick look at some notable moments in British history where street parties would have occurred. 1935, the Silver Jubilee of King George V. 1937, the coronation of King George VI. 1945, VE Day and VJ Days after World War II. 1951, the Festival of Britain. 1953, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. And 1977, Silver Jubilee of the Queen. In 2009, the charity The Eden Project launched The Big Lunch, drawing inspiration from the UK street parties to create an annual event for people to celebrate together over food and fun. The charity noted that these joyful national occasions resulted in huge societal benefits, improving community cohesion and reducing isolation. But in general, since World War II, these events of revived community spirit and connection have seen a steady decline, with a steady increase of social fragmentation and the idea of neighbourhood just not carrying the same level of meaning or significance. I mean, maybe you know one of your neighbours, potentially the person that lives right next door to you, but do you know everybody on your entire street? There is also a rise in the death of communal eating, where we just aren't participating in shared meals or social gatherings around food, which is leading to an increase in loneliness and disconnection. The act of sharing meals with others is becoming less and less common in many cultures and societies, making way for individualised eating, which could be due to the rise of fast food, takeaways, and individual portion meals. I mean, a ready meal for one, I have so been there. It could also be due to our busy lifestyles, increased individualism, the rise of technological advancements leading us to stay indoors more, or the very cost of eating out compared to convenient food options. However, eating alone consistently can weaken social bonds and have a negative impact on mental health, whereby you lose that sense of connection and belonging, and it may even lead to less healthy eating habits. I mean, we can't lie, that is so true. If you're anything like me, when you're on your own, what do? You don't bother. When I'm alone, I can literally live off beans on toast. But when other people are around me, or I'm with Jack, my mum, friends, whatever, I want to make the effort. I want to cook. I want it to be a bit more of an occasion. And so I do eat better meals, not even better meals. I do eat proper meals when other people are with me versus when I'm alone. The world has just changed. I mean, even trying to organise a street party today requires you applying to your local council for licensing and permits, and you have to fill out a series of forms 6 weeks prior to your actual event in case you need road closures. It's just a lot, and to be honest, it kind of takes the fun out of it. Because nowadays you do need licensing and guidance and permits and health and safety and food hygiene. Well, I suppose those last two aren't necessarily a bad thing. But my point is, it's hard work. I mean, long gone are the days of celebratory spontaneity. I mean, to be able to step into a time machine and see just a glimpse of that day in 1945 with its impulsive and beautiful, heartfelt mix of patriotism and unity. People coming together to mark the end of one of the darkest periods of history, savouring the peace that had been hard won, and sharing the joy with neighbours, friends, and strangers alike. Just another incredible display of what should never be forgotten, and what I wish we had a little bit more of today.